to.
All right. We are live. Sandy. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Fabulous Fridays. That's what I call it, right? Fabulous Fridays, Fantastic Fridays, whatever. This is a good kind of FF. Sorry, we're both, just so everybody knows, we're both very high energy. And I don't know if it's my mic or what, but I'm noticing I'm getting echo. Now it stopped. Good.
I'm not hearing echo.
I hear it back at me.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm not hearing it on this end.
But so today we're talking about 3D and what is it? Transition from 3D to 5D.
Whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, so we're going to open it up and have a discussion and maybe introduce some things that maybe people haven't had a chance to think about yet or absorb or consider yet.
Yeah, and it's exciting. And this all came from a conversation we had earlier where Sandy and I were talking, and I said, what's been really weird? I feel like I don't live here anymore. I'm actually an observer of all the insanity, and I feel like I'm a step away from it. It's not actually affecting me, and I'm watching the crazy go on, and that's how the whole thing. And she's like, this is. I think you're feeling the same way a lot of the time, and it is.
Things are morphing. It's morphing, and we're in the morphing phase. So things are going to change for us, and we're going to feel different things at different times, and maybe it'll be new sensations. But it's really important that we understand it, and like you're saying, observe what's going on around us, but not be sidetracked or derailed by it. Just say, well, this is interesting.
Yes. And the funny thing is, I'm gonna switch mics because this is gonna make me crazy.
Hey Teresa, glad you can make it.
Hey Teresa. I have to say, Teresa, thank you so much for all your amazing comments. It always makes me smile. Hey, Patty.
Hi, Patty. We're going to have a lot of fun today talking about things. And it's interesting. And I know everybody who's here is all on the path. We're all on the same path, regardless of what road we're taking. But it's really fantastic that everybody here is contributing because everybody has something to say. I am so impressed with the people who give me information, share things, share insights. This is how we're going to do this going forward. And it's going to get crazier before it gets calmer.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
Hi,
Jay Ross.
Hey, Jay Ross. What I was saying was, 2 weeks ago when I had my little meltdown and I had to actually take a look at what was triggering me. I think that actually, and working those emotions and that crap out and seeing it actually is helping me to look at the crazy from a distance instead of being emotionally involved in it.
Sure it is. And this is what's so important because we have to understand how our emotions trigger us and how we respond to things and how sometimes we're afraid to confront our emotions or feel certain things. And I've been talking to people about this week. Why do we assume that if we are afraid or we are in grief or we are in a pain or suffering that it's a bad thing? And I'm not talking about torture and intentionally abusing somebody. That is not acceptable. But sometimes we have to go through those painful moments so that we can get a sense of ourselves and say, why do I assume that grief is a bad thing? It is a feeling. And if you want to feel the good feelings, you have to feel the bad feelings and be able to work through them, right? And this is what the difference is once we start to understand that it's just an emotion, it's just a feeling. Yes, it's key to the higher realms of consciousness, but it's what it is. It's information. What you're just saying, you had to go inside to see what was going on inside so you could look at the micro and then transfer that and observe the macro because it's going to be both.
I think it's working through the emotional part.
Totally.
I actually think sometimes that emotional part is what drags us. It's what drags us down. And when we can actually deal with all of that, because I just heard something incredibly interesting because she said, what did she say? That it's our emotional mind. It's how we actually remember things is through our emotions, right? So it's the emotional triggers back. Release those. We actually can only descend when we clear them. And another interesting thing, and that it actually made me feel really good because this is the work I decided to do, and it called me and you because we do very similar things.
Yes.
It all goes back to that birth to age 6, 7, when we are actually in our God mind, right? And our parents are programming us, and our teachers or whoever is around us and influencing us. It's the programming. It's the teaching us good and evil, when to feel shame, and all these other things, right? If we can go back and clear that, because that's the root of most of the emotions that we feel and what triggers us.
To a certain extent, let's just quantify that just a little bit or clarify that. It's true, because when we're born, we have a lot of our spiritual abilities intact, and that's where they want to deprogram us from. But there's also situations that happen in the womb. There's past lives, ancestral stuff has come up for me today that I'm going through, or went through what I went through, because I'm clearing ancestral stuff out of my past for my family.
Yep.
So we can clear it in the future. So there's a lot of things at play, but definitely in the 3D reality, birth to age 7. That's why they want the kids in pre-kindergarten, and they want the kids early, and they want them in daycare so that they can program their little minds out from all the good that they have in them.
Yeah. So basically, the summary I put, because I made a whole bunch of notes, I got like a whole page of them, and then I put a summary at the bottom. I'm like, okay, that's too much. Basically, using all the emotional programming from childhood is to bring us to, when we do that, we can actually bring ourselves to spiritual adulthood.
Totally.
We're going from actually that infant state. If we don't transcend those emotions that we programmed back then, we can't come into our adulthood and looking at things from a very different perspective. Absolutely. The ancestral stuff. I mean,
it all plays a role as you start working through.
Yes.
But you're right. You start somewhere. You start in your childhood. You start in this incarnation, and you start looking at things and how they shaped you. And I agree with you from birth to age 7. But let's talk about the programming in our society, whether it's Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and we go hunting for Easter eggs, which reptilians are hatched out of eggs. Like, the whole thing is a program, right? So it's all the way through life. So it's when we decide to have an awakening moment, and this is going to be pivotal in the next number of months, in the next number of years. When we have a pivotal moment where we say, hey, this isn't working for me anymore. It doesn't matter where you jump in. The idea is that you jump in and you start saying that this doesn't work anymore. I'm not buying this. I don't believe in the lies. I want the truth. And you start aligning to a higher maturity. So they want us emotionally immature. They lied at Cinderella, all the stories, Disney, all the stories are designed to keep us in infancy.
And those are done in infancy, right? So you learn about Santa Claus as a child.
You accept lies right off the bat. You accept lies.
Theory, all of the lies.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
Programming is.
But this is the emotional immaturity of Western society.
And that's what we have to release to be able to experience that 5D. And like I said, when I had and the trigger that made me, I had a bit of a meltdown. That was like the best thing that could have happened, because it actually mirror time and go, okay, what the hell is going on here? What's this trigger? Go deep, 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 clear it up. And now I can actually look at the same situation from a distance and feel no emotions. Or not no emotions, but
you're in control of your emotions. You're observing, you can feel, you understand what happened, you have it in a different context, but you're feeling without reaction. And okay, let's just say this, because you had a meltdown and you say it was the best thing that ever happened to you, doesn't mean it was the best thing that happened to the people that were around you. You could have, so it's really important that we understand that we have our aha moments, but if we've caused any kind of harm or, I won't say shock, because that's not one you always have to apologize for, but sometimes you need to apologize and say, I'm really sorry that happened. I didn't mean to say the things I said. I can't believe how triggered I got, but I'm sorry I took it out on you, or whatever. But it doesn't mean you bend over for that person and bow to them because you made a mistake. You acknowledge your mistake and you don't do it again.
I took care of all that when I started to have the realization. Before I even worked through it all, I'm like, oh, okay, this was me. Let's go say sorry. And
yes, so it's really important to acknowledge that. Good for you.
Yeah, that was done first, and then it's like once the realization is struck that it was a trigger, and I had to work on something. This was me, not them. Then guess what? Then you apologize, and I can get on with my work, and it was a sincere apology, because I realized, this is me.
And what I'm saying, though, is I appreciate how you went through this. Not all of us go through the same thing the same way. So some people may have to process it, then apologize. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's not that we get brownie points for figuring out right off the bat that, oh, we made a mistake. It doesn't matter if you did something 10 years ago and you realize now you shouldn't have done it. You transgressed on somebody. Either you apologize in person if that's appropriate, or you write a letter. If it's going to cause them harm, you do not bring it up to them. You write a letter to them and apologize etherically. So there's different ways to do it. So I appreciate everything you're saying and all this, Betty, but everybody, what I want to point out is everybody handles it their own way, and there's no right or wrong. The idea is that you get it. The idea is that you get it and you move on.
It doesn't matter which way you get them.
So I appreciate your story and how you're saying you did it. And I agree with you. That's how you do it. You realize, oh my gosh, I transgressed on these people.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to do that. Apologize. Apologies are not asking for forgiveness. Apologies are, I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry I did that.
I realize what I did, and and I'm sorry.
That's the grown-up thing to do. Hey, we're growing up, everybody. Fabulous Friday. We're growing up.
Growing up, and because I mean, I've been doing this work for a while on myself, and it comes quicker because you realize that if you're triggered, then I got something.
Once you start working through it, it comes quicker. Totally. You catch yourself and you collapse your timeline. You catch yourself, instead of saying I did something and 10 years later I'm reconciling it, you did it, and sometimes it's 10 minutes later and you realize now you're living in the present, which is what I'm picking up from what you're saying. You're in the present and you realize, okay, I just did that. Maybe I did the wrong thing. I'm going to apologize and I'm going to clear it so I don't do it again. And that's the immaturity part, that once you understand you did something that was not beneficial or helpful to other people or yourself, that you don't do it again. You learn from the experience, right?
Yes. And I didn't
that's fantastic.
Over it either, which is another important
thing. Totally. That's even the biggest point.
That's actually a point to make. I didn't beat myself up. It was, this needed to come up. It was actually, I was thankful for it because it showed me something that was actually going to help elevate me and bring me to where I am today. And it's like stepping stones. We're constantly moving up another notch. And, like I've said sometimes, I think if I lived 1,000 years, you'd still be shedding shit. But, because you don't realize, like, you've got lifetimes, you've got a program of stuff that's happened to you, you got to clear. And not that you can get rid of a lot, and maybe not 1,000 years, maybe 100 years. And
it doesn't matter how many years, because we're here in this incarnation to do what? So it doesn't matter if we've been here 1,000 years. So I am not technologically sound. We joke about this sometimes. I do not understand technology. Automobiles, I like the color. Heated seats, a moonroof, and it's got to not sound like my mother's sewing machine. And I'm in. I don't care. Somebody go find me a car. That's all I need to know. I'll look at it. I'll say yay or nay, and off I go, right? But I realized the last time I was here is 1700s. I'm not familiar with all this industrial revolution stuff. Like, to me, this is all just, it's foreign still. So when you realize that, I don't blame myself and say I'm not good at technology. I say I have to learn technology, and I'm going to learn it the hard way because I have to start from scratch. I've not had these experiences before. So I don't blame myself for it. I just realize that I've got to come back and work harder at certain things that I don't have them, right?
Or you have friends who can help you. Not that I'm a genius.
Totally. And that's it as well. All I'm saying is I'm not blaming myself for not being technologically sound. I'm not blaming myself for not caring about automobiles. If I had a flat tire on the side of the road, I don't know how to change my tire. I don't need to know how. I need to know how to put my thumb out and beg for somebody to stop and help me. That's all I need to know how to do, or call CAA or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
So, interesting stuff.
And another thing I actually wanted to bring up, because I thought was beautiful, and it actually is part of our ascension into 5D and beyond, because 5D is just like the lower echelons, like it's the basement of the.
And there's a preconceived notion that the choice is 3D or 5D. It's like when in universities they say, well, you have an abstract, so you have this point of view and this point of view, and you got to debate the two. Who says those are the only two? You look at it and say there's so many dimensions of reality that all of this is starting to come into play. How do we open ourselves to feel what's going on, to sense what's going on, to know what's going on, and what we need to do as we transition? So it's not like being flighty, but it's being aloof to a certain degree, that we see what's going on, but nothing nails us down.
Yes. And I've said it before on other programs, we need to know where we came from, because that's where we're going to go. So where is your home? Which, and we don't need to know right this second, but it's us evolve, because we're going through and I actually think it's a spiritual evolution, coming back into our true selves.
Totally.
And so I call 3D to 5D stuff that most people are thinking. But really, it's let's bring ourselves to, sorry, while you're moving, I get the echo again.
Yeah, you're getting other. I'm not hearing everything you're saying, so I'm not sure what's happening with your microphone.
I said, as we're evolving, what we're doing is we're actually bringing we're spiritually evolving, not
totally
physically evolving or mentally.
So
evolving.
we don't know what's happening.
So I put 3D to 5D only because that's what everybody talks about. But really, we're going to evolve to wherever we're limitation. See, it's when you're moving, when anybody else is moving that I get the echo. So we have to stay very still. Sandy, we're going to play statues.
Isn't that interesting? So you know what's important to know, that we think we're the ones who are evolving, and Gaia, planet Earth, is evolving as well, and as she is increasing her resonance. So it's interesting. Some of the people here, we've had a bit of a chat this week, and what we're talking about is I'll be doing something, and my balance, I go off balance. And so I was putting cream on my feet, and I had my foot up on the vanity, and next thing you know, I think I'm going to fall over, and I'm like, what is going on? I came in after doing some errands this week, and I tried to close my garage door, and then I leaned against the door, and I'm like, so I realized Earth is shifting, and other people are saying they're hearing whoosh, and they're hearing the hydro, and they're listening to the hydro and getting loud sounds. So there's a lot of things that are going on that we're experiencing that really isn't, we're experiencing it, but we're not the source of it. So it's not that it's our ascension symptoms, it's our awareness that something else bigger is going on around us, and we're watching it. Well, and was it you who told me, Chris, or Cliff High said something about accidents are happening, more accidents are happening because of people, their consciousness is being shifted by injecting certain things into their system perhaps. And it's the same thing. I'm watching people at a roundabout, and I'm watching people take off and go into the roundabout when obviously there's vehicles, like there's not just one, there's 3 vehicles in front of them, and almost causing an accident. So we have to be really, I don't want to say hyper vigilant, but we have to stay alert that lots of crazy stuff is about to go down, and it's already started.
Yeah. Well, it's not just us who are ascending, because it's the Earth that is ascending.
Yes.
And I loved, because now this is the second time. Linda said it today, or I don't know if it was today.
We're going to talk about Linda. We're going to mention who Linda is, just for people to have reference of her, because I really liked her video that I saw. But so what's her name? Linda Good McGillis?
Yeah. And
maybe we'll post it.
Yeah, I can actually post a link to the video that you had sent me that I watched. And then I'm actually in the middle of watching yet another one. But what she said, and I don't remember if it was in that video or another one, but that and Max Spears actually said the exact same thing, that what we don't realize is Earth is really the jewel of the universe.
Totally.
And
we're tucked away in a corner, and we don't matter, and we're irrelevant, and blah 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 blah, all to keep us playing small.
Paradise. We are the paradise.
We are paradise.
We are paradise. And so we are coming back into the Earth is coming back into its greatness as we are. And that's why we're evolving, the Earth is evolving. We're all like, whoa, where the hell am I? Energy. A lot of time.
And it's fun. It can be fun, and it can be scary, and we can choose. And there's times we can have it both. That something happens, and maybe there's going to be a shuddering of the earth, and we think we're having an earthquake or something. But we have a choice in some ways of how we respond to this. Are we going to embrace it and just say, you know what, whatever happens, happens. I'm here to experience whatever, and I'm going to do the best I can to grow, evolve,
yes,
grow into my true self. Help Mother Earth grow into her true self, whatever that means, right? And encourage with our consciousness, and with our actions, and just understand that this is the ascension. That everybody's worried about the jab, and they're worried about masks and stuff like that, and it's like, that's just a distraction. You're gonna get it. Maybe it's not your time to evolve this time. I don't know. Don't care. Everybody's got to decide for themselves. What did you say something this week, Betty, that was so profound? You said screwing with, and we changed it to messing, so it sounded nicer. Messing with people's lives is not a good thing. Fuck your own life up.
Basically, and I was
telling people to get the job, right?
I was thinking about that this morning. I was in the bathroom, getting ready, and I was trying to remember what I said, because I know you were like, "Oh my God, that's so good," and I'm like,
I wrote it down. Yeah,
stuff just comes out of my mouth. I'm telling you.
Of course, that's the way it is for all of us, right? But when it's profound, you write it down so we can.
Yeah, and I've started to carry my notebook with me, because it's like, I got to write this stuff down too, because I get some really good thoughts, and then by the time we come on air, half of them are gone.
So that's why we write it down. So Teresa's making a comment about vertigo, and that's one of the ascension symptoms is vertigo, that you're feeling out of balance because the earth is shaking underneath you. If anybody wants, you guys can, I don't know if I have this or not. I have a book on energy clearing, on tapping, and there's a protocol for vertigo that you can tap out vertigo. So I can tap out anxiety, I can tap out fear, I can tap out different things. But if anybody wants it, send me a message later and I will show you. I'll give you the legend and I'll show you how to tap that out, because you don't want to have vertigo when you're driving and going over an overpass or something like that, and all of a sudden you got vertigo, right? That's not the time that you want to have it. You want to be able to manage it and recognize it's happening. If you're at home and you're sitting down, maybe you just feel it and see, what does this feel like? There's times I can sit in this chair if I'm working with somebody, I think I'm going to fall over, and I'm like, hey, this is new.
Yeah. I've had that too, actually. Yeah. It's like all of a sudden it's like everything like just wobbles.
Yes. So understand that it's not us. We're not crazy. We're not losing our minds. It's just the earth is changing. And when we increase our awareness and increase our abilities to be fluid in energy, which, as you're talking earlier, part of that is processing emotional pain and suffering in the past. But this is, we're in what I see us in between right now. We just had the lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
Which is say, clean out your stuff, clean out your ancestral stuff, clean out all the troubled emotions that are causing you pain. And sometimes we need other people to be able to show us that we're not, like, we need other people to witness what we're going through, so they can say, you're not crazy. No, that was wrong, or that shouldn't have happened, or that was inappropriate, or that's just somebody trying to manipulate you. Why I'm saying that, we have to do that in the mini level, because what's going to happen now, we're coming into a solar eclipse on June 10th. And it's going to be the macro manipulation, the deception. People are going to come out of the woodwork trying to lie to us to get us to go back into their old reality. And if we don't know how to manage our own fear, we might absorb their stuff instead of just giving them our arthritis or arthritic middle finger and just saying, we're not buying. And that's all it takes, is for us consciously to say, we're not buying this. I don't know what the answer is. There's supposedly this woman who's come out and saying that she's the head of Canada and blah, 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 right? And I looked at that, and the first thing I thought was, she's Tokyo Rose. She's here just to add to the distraction. I went for a walk this week, and when I get back in my car, the phone rings, and I shouldn't have picked it up. I don't have Bluetooth. I didn't hook up my Bluetooth, but I picked up the phone, picked up the call, and it was a recording saying that Revenue Canada is calling me to, they're so wonderful, inform me that my social insurance number has been compromised. And it's a recorded message. And I'm like, you know, it's bullshit, because they wouldn't send a recorded message out. They would send something, somebody in person to talk to you about it. But what my point is in all this, that they're going to try scare tactic upon scare tactic upon scare tactic. This is where we put all of our discernment and everything that we've learned and cleared out in the past, about whether it's this lifetime, past lifetimes, whatever it is, right? Ancestral, generational stuff, so that we can stay on point.
Yes.
And go with the flow.
and that's, you know, where we can stand our ground, because that's really what it's all about. And
that too.
You know, I've said this many times too, but I think it rings true, and it's something that we need to hear over and over again, because there's different kinds of awakening.
Yes.
There's different kinds of awakening. You are either awake to just what's going on and all the deception in the world. And then there's those that are aware of the deception in the world, and also
your spiritual path, your growth, and how to bring your consciousness on. Yeah. So there's no right or wrong. It's just.
But then there's people who are supposedly spiritual, but don't see the deception of what's going on in the world, and
totally.
That. So we've got like a multitude, and so those of us, both sides, are like, we see the deception. We realize that this is an opportunity for us to grow in ourselves and stand in our power. And we create a realization that we created this, because we are the creators, right?
I'm not of that opinion, and it doesn't mean I'm right. I think when you look at the darkness, and the manipulation, they created this. They created this shit show we call reality. And it doesn't matter. We bought in because we didn't know. We have a responsibility for buying in, but we did not create this. We are creating the solution that is getting us out of this.
Well, if they can't create, they actually manipulated us to create this mess.
They feed off our energy to fuel this. There's no doubt about that, because we didn't know, but we didn't create. And I don't want to go into duality per se, but it's like some things are just wrong to do that, to manipulate other people to get your way is wrong. They created that. The CIA created the television, television. We know that. So they created a psyop to mess with our ability to use our own innate powers. You look at Microsoft, right? Windows are the eyes of the soul. So they put Windows on your operating system. So there's a lot of manipulation. It's our job not to get manipulated. And that's where we are in a unique position. And I'm not gonna say my age, but I'm just gonna refer to myself as a little more seasoned than some people on the planet right now, right? We have the unique opportunity to look at what has happened in our past, to see what was wrong, how we were manipulated, how we were used. If it was abuse, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Because once you clear it, it's just something that happened to you and you learn from it. And then we come into the present and say, well, what are we going to do now? And then envision the future. So we are going to go past, present, and future and unite the timelines into the present so we can create the future we want. So we've got all the power if we so choose, right?
Exactly. But you're basically saying what I meant. We were manipulated into this.
Totally.
But we actually, now that we are becoming conscious, because we're in an evolutionary state spiritually.
Yes.
Then when we disconnect from the matrix and we start creating this new paradigm, that is what they're afraid of, because they can no longer
totally
timelines. So they created the space for us to create this mess, but now
yes, they made it so bad that we have no choice.
Now we're in a space where we've pulled out and went, now we're fixing this shit. No more. And that's the key. And as we clear out all of our junk, Linda Good said something else. I thought it was brilliant, because I think she's very right, about energies, right? And when we have blocked energies, and the emotion code is all, and body code is all about these blocked energies. When we have blocked energies and blocked emotions in our bodies, it is actually stopping that golden Christed light from flowing through us. And that's what is slowing us down and why we are not ascending as quickly as we want. So
that's why they're hurting us, so that we have pain and suffering. So that's why we live in abusive society. And some people may not agree. And if you haven't had experienced abuse, I'm happy for you. But the majority of people have had hardships or had somebody manipulate, and the betrayal is what breaks the heart, the human heart. Most people are experienced. It doesn't matter if somebody stole from you or whatever the abuses are, it breaks your heart, because you think you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're supposed to be a decent person, right? So this is why we live in an abusive society. They want us slow. They want us blocked. They want us not being able to tap in and bring in the energies. And I can't remember if I was telling you this video, I was telling a few other people a couple of nights ago. I think I'm watching a video and I wake up and I'm like, that's how you move your consciousness. Oh my gosh, I knew that. And I was giving myself a massage and going in energetically with my consciousness into each like up and down my spine, going in between the different discs. And I was massaging myself, and I get up and I look for my video and I'm like, where did it go? I would have saved that video. And then you showed me how to go and look up YouTube to see these videos, and it's nowhere to be found. And I realized that was a download. Yeah. So we are this powerful when we know how to use our conscious mind. But the idea is you have to clean. When I say you, I don't mean everybody here. I mean the collective you, us. But that's why we have to clear out our emotions, because if we don't come from pure good intention, we're creating a variation of the shit show that we're coming out of now.
And it's not allowing the light, because there's a lot more light coming through. Like, Christ light wants to come through us. And and that's part of the ascension symptoms, is if you're starting to feel pain somewhere or disoriented or whatever, it's actually a pointer that I have something to work on here.
Totally.
To clear out so that the light can flow through.
And I love how you're saying that. You're just observing it. I've got a pain. What is this telling me? I've got something that I've got to clear out. Is it mine? Is it someone else's? Is it ancestral? Is it generational? Am I being targeted by somebody? And the answers are irrelevant, in my opinion. It's knowing what questions to ask and get to the bottom of it. It's not personal. And then it's just one more thing that you've done, and then it loses its charge.
Yes. And she said this. I actually had to write this down because I thought it was brilliant. I really did. I was having fun today with and last night.
That's the beauty of awakening, right? As well, when you get information that you know is different, like we're all hearing about the dumbs and all this kind of stuff about the tunnels. Who cares? When that comes out, it comes out. If it doesn't come out, it doesn't come out. We're still ascending regardless. We still have work to do, and this is the fun part. I love how enthusiastic you are.
It's good to know that it's getting cleaned out and that will come back to its magnificence.
Yes,
and that's why it needs to be cleaned out, because if we are that shining star in the galaxy, we are paradise. We are everyone wants
the glory, as you put it. We are the glory.
This is the place to be.
That's why everybody says you want to go back to your old planet, and I'm like, I kind of I like nature. I like being outdoors. I'm quite impressed with what we have here in terms of nature. We have everything we need, right?
Absolutely. And and that's part of the reason that we need the light, so we can we're clearing this plane. And we want
and bring in the higher good. So the light's going to help us bring in the higher good too.
And this I'm how many times variations of this, I keep telling people we are amazing. We are amazing. I know. And she said it's time for us to shine as the diamonds that we are.
We are the stars, not the Hollywood stars. We are the stars. The star in the sky. We're a reflection of that. We are the stars of our own show. But, and some people would listen to us talking right now and say, well, aren't those two somewhat narcissistic? And it's not. We're understanding the beauty in who we are. We also realize that there's things that happen that we, have to take responsibility for as we grow through this. But we're transitioning from the lower density, which whatever they call the 3D, and we're opening ourselves up to our true magnificence. And we talk about this. I say this all the time. We are IA. We're intelligent already. BG created the computers to mimic us so that they can control us. And you notice when people sometimes say, oh, you've got, and they'll say ADHD, or they'll give you some sort of a label. All that means is energetically, you're faster than the person who's labeling you. So they want you to slow down. And they say, oh, you're so hyper, or you're so whatever, right? You get so excited, or you're so emotional. All they're saying to you is they're slow and they're dense and they can't keep up with you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying vibrate so high you vibrate yourself into a state you can't get back out of, right? I'm not saying that, but just understand that we do have the power, and this is where we're stepping into our own power, and they don't want us doing that. That's what education's about. 12 years of education, and then you go into 4 or 7 more years to specialize in some sort of a program to keep you stupid and following the rules, right? And we talk about that on different occasions, right?
Yeah. No, but it's really finding the divinity within us, and it's not about being. And I think I talked about this when I was on with Patty on Wednesday. It's not. It sounds very narcissistic, but it is not actually.
It's not.
It's not like I'm the only one, and Sandy is we're the only two. No. Every single one of us has that in us, and that's what we're trying to uncover
and encourage other people to shine their light, because it might not be the time to shine your light on Friday at 11:35. Maybe it's time next week, or maybe the week after, or the following month, or maybe it's going to be next year and you're just ramping up, and there's no right or wrong. The idea is that you go within and trust your internal clock of what is telling you when it's time to shine. And this is why we've all got it. And this is why it's so important that we support each other. And it's really fantastic that I can even see the people here. You guys know this. We're not telling anybody what they don't know. We're just giving them permission to stand in their power, right?
Right. Absolutely.
That's what I see us doing.
That's the mission of this, is actually to awaken to all of our possibilities, not just mine. Everyone.
Really? Everybody.
As a collective, we when we grow together, I mean, it's not about putting one above the other. I've said many times, you know what? I'm no more special than anybody else in this chat or watching this at any given time. It's, I'm willing to put myself out here. That's the only difference. And
when you're willing to put yourself out here,
you have a different mission. This is what I felt called to do. Doesn't mean that anybody else's is less.
But we're all leaders. If you're awake at this point of the game and you're starting to realize that you're stepping into your power, you are going to be one of the leaders, regardless of whether you want to or not. But it doesn't mean you do it in public. Maybe you do it online. Maybe you do it anonymously. Maybe you write a book under a pseudonym. It doesn't matter what we do, but we're starting to understand that all this is happening, right?
Absolutely. You might be a teacher.
You made a comment, I think this week, Betty. You said something about meditation. So we've talked about the group meditation meditations, and some people, I don't want to say the names, it doesn't matter, because I learn from everybody, whether it's a good lesson or a bad lesson, I learn, right? But they said that when they were doing a mass meditation of 20,000 people, that the Schumann resonance lifted up. And other people realize that the dark energies, when you pop your head up like that, if you don't know how to protect your energy, the dark energies follow you back, and people were getting visited by the demonics that night in dream state. And you said something, Betty, that I thought was so good, that why don't we at some point, and we're not suggesting it today, we all meditate, but everybody do their own meditation. It's not that you follow a group meditation. It's not that you follow anything that somebody else is saying, but you come in with your own interpretation of what you want to see happening in the world. So we stand up collectively, but individually still, so that we're not, because whose agenda is correct? Who says the white hat, if you call it white hat agenda, is totally correct? Who says the black hat is totally incorrect? Who knows, right? But you create what you want, and you put your own signature in your meditation of what you want to see, and not following somebody else's dictates, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be a big change.
Everybody is focused on one person who's guiding that meditation. All the focus in one spot. And so, the dark side or the light side can be in there. They both can be. And the dark side will actually attach to anybody who is weaker and hasn't created protection. So when you actually say, okay, everybody tonight at 6 p.m., let's meditate. Well, do it on your own. At 6 o'clock, we all sit and meditate. It will still affect the Schumann resonance. But we're no longer all in one collective. And that we're easy targets.
It's interesting because
that way.
So let's understand how the dark energies work, right? So somebody just sent me a message this morning and said they're following the tours of Sasha Stone and different people. I'm not going to say all the players out there, but they're going from city to city, and they're speaking up about what's going on and trying to bring awareness. And she made a comment that she noticed the people were now riding in different buses. So people had changed. They were all riding in certain buses. Now it looks like alliances are forming. And I went in and had a look, and I'm like, no, they're being targeted because they're starting to stand up. So dark energies are they're going to come in and get them infighting. Mm-hmm. So it's not that we go and send them love. We go and send the dark energies. Hey, we're on to you. Get out. We go after the darkness that's dogging them, because I don't even think they're aware that this is even happening, right? But it's like anytime people start to speak up, then something starts to derail, and it's like, why is that happening? Because the darkness is finding them. That's my opinion of what's happened there.
Yes, because not everybody on that tour is it's not and this is not coming from a judgment place. This is just where they're at, and you can see it. They're not all at a spiritually awakened level that they would realize.
They've even realized darkness is dogging them, right? So do we go and say, hey, by the way, dude, you got demons? I don't really think that's going to be a conversation that's going to put you in favor with any of them. You just go in and just say, hey, you mess with them, you mess them with us.
Yeah, I actually would be
know how to do it.
You've got, because of all this good energy, regardless of where it's coming from, like even if you're not spiritually aware and, working on that part, you're coming from the side of good. And you're trying to do a good thing, therefore the negative. And I think most people would realize that. And it's like, when you see this stuff happening, tell them, you are not given permission to be here. You must leave.
You must leave. Cast out the darkness, right?
Cast out the darkness. And if they do that more often, it's a really simple thing. I'm not going to tell anybody you got demons, but you got darkness coming in because you're shining a light.
You're shining the light, and we don't shine the light on the light, so we don't shine the light on them. We shine the light and on the darkness. Get out. You're not messing with these guys. You mess with them, you mess with us. They don't even need to know any of us are doing this.
Yes.
Right? And it doesn't matter. Everybody's on their own path, and maybe they're doing the physical reality of bringing awareness to what's going on within the voting system and what's going on within the political system. Maybe their spiritual awakening is going to come a year from now. Maybe it's going to come a month from now, and it's all irrelevant. We're all moving toward doing what's right. And that's what the key is to all of this.
Absolutely. Right? It's all about shining the light in the darkness. Everybody is on their own journey. No one is better than the other, because you have to do it in your own time.
Yes, and this is what's happening right now. So when we look at what's we're experiencing right now, we're experiencing a purging. We're getting rid of the old, as you were talking about, the old energies, the emotions that are maybe mired in an event that still lands as a betrayal or hurt us, and pain and suffering. That seems to be what they tried to do to the human species. But this is all changing on a biochemical level. Like, we're changing, our hormones are changing, Like for me, I'm taking tissue salts again. I'm taking minerals again. I'm like, why am I being called to do all of these things? But we're purging the old and bringing in the new. And this is why it's so important that we are aware as we go through this, because if we're not careful, there's a very thin line between illusion and delusion. If we're not careful, we're going to create the same screwed up simulation that we just came out of, because darkness is ready. Darkness knew they were going to do this. So they've got a few more cards up their sleeve, and it's still up to us as we go through this. Think of it as going through a forest, and we know we're going to come out the other side, but there may be 3 or 4 different paths we can take. Doesn't matter which one you take, but you want to understand if there's any booby traps on the path, if there's a puddle of quicksand or something that's going to knock us down, so that we watch and we don't become attached to any outcome. And if we take the wrong path, we back up and take another path. So if we make the wrong choice, we back up and go to right choice, whatever that is, right? So it's really important discernment right now, the next few months. Mm-hmm. We're on whether we're ready or not.
Well, and that's the beauty of a lot of the stuff that we talk about when we, if you go through the list of all of the things we talked about, removing the programming, removing all the old caught up emotions, getting rid of all the junk, what happens is you actually become more discerning. You're able to feel the energy of,
totally,
is this for my betterment or not, or for humanity, whatever it is, whatever is coming in your field, you'll be able to choose the right road easier because you're carrying less of a burden.
And that makes all the difference in the world, is clearing those emotions. And this is, I'm not going to say what concerns me, but I know a lot of people, they're still in the process of clearing emotions. That's okay. There's no right or wrong to it. But if you're trying to go and manifest and you've still got anger, or you're pissed off with somebody who is maybe doing wrong things to people, but if you've got that in your, I'm going to say your mindset, but if it's in your heart set and you're manifesting with your mindset, you're creating more of their garbage, their carnage. And this is why we don't want to do that. And it's not saintly.
No, it's not. And so much of this stuff that we don't, I mean, I know working on clients, and it's like, stuff comes up and it's like, oh, you've got, these are the emotions. It's like, I don't know these. And it's like, it's not your conscious mind.
It's not personal.
No, but your conscious mind doesn't remember those things necessarily. But you're dealing from your subconscious. Remember, your subconscious was also programmed. And that's why, when we talked about meditation before, your subconscious starts to talk to you. You can actually hear the programming in your subconscious that creates your conscious. So until we clear the crap from our subconscious, we're creating from this place of distortion.
And totally. And even though, okay, so put that in timelines, put it in past, present, and future. You're in the present and you realize that you're thinking of something, or you had made an assumption. We're going to talk about Aquarius and Aries. Here's an example. So I've trained in astrology, and some information comes up. You can still catch yourself in the act of being in a program, but consciously rewire your mind right at that time and say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I never thought of it, but it's just part of the program of how I learned about astrology. So everything is going to keep coming up for review for us, that we say, is this real? Is this not real? And the point we're making, a few people have mentioned that when you look at the wheel, the zodiac wheel, it goes counterclockwise is what it does. So if that's the case, are we coming from Pisces and going into Aquarius, or Pisces and going into Aries? And I've heard a few people present both, and the answer is it doesn't matter. As long as we're aware and we see that both are possible, that maybe they've lied about the astrology. There's supposedly 13 signs, not 12. Yeah. 13 is the feminine number, Sophia, right? It's all tied in. So even when I go through my astrology and I work through different charts for people or whatever it is, I look at it and I think, okay, is there other possibilities? Yes, but we will deal with that when the information comes in.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I've actually, recently, it's like, I've got this mindset of surrender to whatever. And
it's an interesting word that's come up this week.
Surrender to whatever, but I surrender to the fact that everything in my life is a lie. Every belief I have held has probably been distorted. Some of them are correct, some of them are incorrect, but they're distorted. Sandy's just popped out for a second, but when you actually are like, I am open to whatever is the truth, whatever the truth is, even if it goes against the paradigm that I'm like maybe holding on to a little bit, but I've kind of trying to like let my fingers go of everything and being open to keeping myself very protected, mind you, keeping myself very protected, because otherwise I can be very manipulated at that point. But any new information that I can actually assimilate it to, and feel if it's true or not, and not hold on to the old beliefs anymore.
So what's surrender though? Let's talk about what surrender is, right? Because that's a word that's come up this week with different people. They want to surrender. What are you surrendering? What are you surrendering to, or are you surrendering from? And when we start looking at what the word surrender means, we can put a different context to it. So when I surrender to the powers that be, source, creator, energy. Show me what I need to know. That's who I surrender to. I don't surrender to another human being.
No. Yeah.
So you surrender to truth, which is part of the light, the information that's coming in, right? But this is what surrender is. So a lot of people have a preconceived notion that if they're surrendering, they're giving up control, and it's not. You're connecting on a deeper level, and you're trusting yourself that whatever information comes in, you'll make the right decision.
I'm actually surrendering all the junk, all the programs. I'm giving it back and going, okay, they're no longer serving. Now I want truth to come in.
Surrender to truth, right? You want the truth, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
You'll decide, even if you don't like it.
That programming package back, going, I'm done with it. Thank you. I surrender it back to you. I don't want it anymore. And now, there might have been some truths in it, but if I empty myself of those, I can actually then the truth can come in and from a different filter.
Interesting, because we can surrender all the AI manipulation back to Bill Gates. You can do that etherically into your Wi-Fi box, through your fiber optic cables, through the electricity, and send it. So are you going to Silicon Valley with it? And just imagine yourself going down all the fiber optic cables, all the electricity cables, and you're dropping all the manipulation in the computer system back at the programmer's desk. Whoever's putting in the coding, the algorithms, what have you, right? So there's so many things we can do with our consciousness and our conscious energy.
In my education in energy, one of the key things I remember taking my old boss to one day of the seminar. We went to one of the seminars in the US, and I was like, I had an extra ticket, and it's like, why don't you come for a day? Why not? Because he lived there. And that day they were talking about how everything is actually energy. So everything is energy. And the thing is dense. Everything is like, even, my bottle, this is just energy. It can actually transform. If we weren't in this density, we can make it whatever we want. Right.
I have a client who has a dresser, and she said she looked at it the one day and it was starting to shimmer. The top of it was shimmering as if it was liquid. So it was changing density. And of course, we have to watch who we say these things to, because we say it to the wrong person, they're going to assume you're crazy or find a reason to criticize you or what have you, right? You want to make sure you're saying it to the right people. But a lot of this is what's happening. And I was saying about energy, about being off balance before. People are telling me that they're hearing whoosh, and they're feeling the energy just move through them. And I've touched trees before, and I can see plasma out of the corner of my eye. And I'm like, are we so programmed that we don't even know how to use our innate abilities, right?
And that's what I'm surrendering to. Let me, I want those things to come in.
Yes.
It doesn't take away from who I am. Actually, it's making me better.
You're asking for your increased spiritual abilities to become present and known to you.
Yes.
And to come online, right?
That whole thing that was, most of us are running programs and the stuff, and that's not who you really are. That is the lie. Who we really are is something fantastic. And that's why, like I said, we need to realize the diamond we are, or as I have said, we have to find that, reconnect with that light in us, that Christ consciousness, and that's going to show us who we really are, not all the stuff people dumped on us. No.
And a lot of times that's what it is, what people have dumped on us. Amber's asking, how do you break the heaviness you've been put on yourself over the years so you can advance? And so there's a few things going on that I'm picking up, Amber, is you have to decide what is yours and what is expectations or perceived behaviors that you've got from other people's programming. And you look at the programming, it can be religious, it can be family, societal, cultural, educational, all kinds of programming, but that's what has to happen. And you have to be willing to let it go. And I work with a lot of people, and I'm sure Betty does as well, but I work with a lot of people who, what happens if they break out of their programming? Will their family ostracize them? So there's going to be a trade-off that you have to understand. One of two things: you're going to do it anyways, or you're going to do it and not tell the normies. And this is one thing that's coming up for me big time right now. You can go and, so we talk about 3D to 5D. What if you go 3D to open up all the Ds? So you can spend any 4-hour period with normies if you have to. If I go and run errands and I'm having a moment where I'm writing things out and I'm getting a lot of downloads, I go stand on my front porch and I say to myself, okay, you're going to go out and you're going to talk to the normies for a while, and you're going to do this for an hour, and you're going to get along fine, and whatever comes up, you're going to handle it, instead of looking at them like they're nuts when they say something to you. And then you come back and then you can change your energy flow. So this is all about energy mastery as well. But you put a lot of stuff on yourself, Amber. You got to ask yourself why, and work with somebody. It doesn't matter if somebody's in your area or not. So much can be done remotely. I work with a lot of clients remotely anywhere in the world right now, just because
everybody does it remotely now.
We're all doing it.
I'm
and it's easier.
It's easier. It's actually easier. There's less interference, I find. Even when I was seeing people face to face, I found when I was doing it remotely, I actually got better results.
And sometimes that works that way because you're not putting as much of your own energy in. But Amber, I'm getting a big block from you that you put the heaviness on yourself. What happens if you take the heaviness off? And it's the fear of the unknown that's keeping you playing small. And why I'm saying that is because you take all the heaviness off of you, it doesn't mean you have to do a thing different other than enjoy your life. There's no rules here that, once you clear something, you got to go out and grandstand and bring other people with you. There's nothing. It's about just going through and sometimes and clearing it and saying, this is what it feels like not to have heaviness. That's all. So don't put any expectation on yourself. That's what the big thing is, right? That we all have to be these wonderful people. A lot of times it's women. We have to be perfect for everybody else.
And how often, I mean, I've had so many clients, it's like after a session, between sessions, they come back the following week or a few days later and, I feel so much lighter.
Isn't that funny when they say that, or they'll send you a text? I can't believe how I feel. Now what are you going to do?
I feel so much lighter.
You're supposed to feel that way.
That's the point of it. You're supposed, when you let that go, you actually are able to bring in joy. You can bring in all the good stuff when you let go of the bad stuff and the programming. Yes, you're right. You could lose things. Absolutely. You could lose family, friends. I mean, anybody on this journey can say we've all lost somebody.
Yeah, totally.
Probably multiple somebodies on this journey. But do I have to keep myself small? Do I want to continue to keep myself smaller in that box?
To please other people.
Else happy instead of being my true authentic self. That is the trade-off. And you will be when you let them go, other good people can come in. That's really it. It's when
you're making space, you're creating a vacuum.
Window.
Yes.
And you have to, it won't happen right away necessarily, but there is a trade-off, and people will come in that will actually make you,
you're creating a vacuum. So there's let's just, if we can backtrack on that just a second. So when you create a vacuum in your life, so something isn't working for you, so you remove that out of your life. Here's the thing, and I agree with what you're saying, Betty. The idea is that you make room for something better, but if you haven't cleaned out that program and you say, this person's the cause of my problems, and you still have the energy that is attracting people who are going to harm you, take from you, whatever, you're going to replace it with the same energy. So it's important that we're cognizant when we are making all of these moves and people are changing in our lives, that you're not just bringing the next person in your life and saying, oh wow, they chose me. Instead of saying, wait a minute, is this really what I want?
Yes, because you'll be able to once you start clearing out all the negative programming energies.
And knowing you're worthy.
And realize you'll actually be able to just instinctively know the people you want in your life and the ones you don't.
And Betty, you're at the, I'm not going to say the fast track, but Betty's 100% right in this. But what I'm saying is so many things happen that cause people to, if they haven't cleared out their stuff, they got to go through and clean it out a few places. But ultimately what Betty is describing, once you get through your emotional pain and suffering and whatever it is, ancestral, generational, current life, whatever, then this is how it happens, and it happens faster. So Betty's giving you the end game kind of. And what I'm saying is don't expect, because it doesn't work the first time, that there's not another lesson in there. And the more you've been through, chances are the more you're going to have to go through to get to that point. But Betty's right. Once you get there, it's just boom, boom, boom. Things start happening and synchronicities come in.
Well, how many times have I said this? Like, even just, the issue, things are still coming up. I've cleared out so much stuff in my, but things still pop up because you get actually, and the way it works, Amber, and anybody else, the things that bubble up first are the ones that are ready to be released. You're not ready to release everything all at once. And so
you can't.
Your subconscious and your body knows what you can release without a lot of pain, honestly.
It's going to prioritize what you need to release. And sometimes people will tell me, I've had them tell me what they want to work on. And I sit there and I muscle test and I'm thinking, that's not their issue, but they don't want to deal with what really is there. And that's why you work with somebody who can read the energy, who's not attached, and say, what about this? This is what's coming up. What does this mean? Let's clear this first and then see. So I have people who tell me what they want for an outcome. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can't work that way. I want this. I don't care. That's not what I'm here for. You tell me what the issue is, what you want to clear, and then I go in and see if there's a true cause for that or an emotional cause for that, spiritual cause, and then we clear, because sometimes you'll have one thing that's got the trap door. It's like having a great big heavy brick on a spring door, and you find out the door is not the issue, the spring is the brick is the issue. Do you know what I mean? Or vice versa, and you realize that's not what the problem is. What they're telling you is not what the problem is. That's just what they want to pretend the problem is, because they don't want to go in and deal with it. And we don't care what the answer is. That's why we're effective. We don't care what the answer is. We just want, the answer. We just want to go in and be able to help you find what the answer is. Yeah. If that makes any sense.
It's getting to the root cause of issues.
Root cause, totally.
It's not looking at the surface.
And that's what people tell you, I've got this and I got this and I got this problem with this person. And I'm like, I don't care. It's not what the issue is. So then you go in and you start digging down. And if you're working with somebody who can hold space, that's great. But sometimes you don't even have to say what the issue is. They just go in and say, do you know what this means? So there's no right or wrong. There's no one way that works for everybody. There's no one size that fits all in this, because we're all unique individuals. We got to go through it our own way, but you have to trust the person you're working with is not going to buy into your bullshit. Is there a better way to say that? When people tell you this is what my issue is, it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's sometimes I often say you got to pick a healer or somebody to work with that you resonate with, but you don't pick somebody who's going to be
a yes person for you.
A yes person for you. Somebody who's going to challenge you. And, sometimes I've had to have difficult conversations with clients where it's like, you know what? I'm hitting a brick wall, and I told them exactly what was going on with them.
Yeah.
I could only go so far. And it was like, I actually was like literally hitting my head against the wall and working with them. So we had a conversation and I said, here's what's going on. And she was like, yep. I said, she wasn't.
And you want to be respectful
on it. And I said, okay, well, call me if you ever are, but.
Yeah, and you be respectful. I like how you're saying that. So when we say that we see something different, if the person doesn't want to go there, you don't say you're going to deal with this no matter what. You respect that person's choice. But at the same time, sometimes people, they're gonna buck. That's the word I'm going to use. They're going to buck because they don't want to go there because it's so emotionally charged. And once they get the first layer through, they're like, oh my gosh, this isn't as hard as I thought. No. It's not as big a deal. So I like how you're saying that you have the integrity is what you're describing, that if somebody really doesn't want to go somewhere and they say they do, you still have to use your own discernment and not go. I have one client, normally it's people's egos that get in the way and stop people from breaking through. I have one client, it's her higher self that won't let her break through. And her physiological responses, like she starts shaking and like you can just see it in her body that she's starting to have an adverse effect to what you're doing. Then you back it out. And we still have not figured out why her higher self doesn't want her to learn. It's not a demonic, it's not anything like that. But we know when the time is right,
yeah,
that will happen for her.
And sometimes people, and this particular client, it's actually just one that I really like. And she was I'm not dealing with it because there was fear of loss if we actually went down that road. And I told her what I got. I'm like, okay, this is what you're afraid of losing, blah, 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 blah. And
you're the future.
You're like, stop, you're stopping me. I cannot go any further. And I'm not going to pretend I'm working on you when I'm not.
Yeah, you can't.
No, I can't. But I left the door open. I'm like, when you're ready to deal with it, come on back. I'm fine. Or if you go somewhere else, I don't care. But I want you to know that yes, I can feel this line, and here's the reason why. And
So that means you're good at what you do.
Sometimes that awareness of, hey, you've got a block, and it's fear, and this is a fear of this, actually, because I actually got what the fear was. Boom, she got to make the choice.
And this is interesting because more of us, as time goes by, like we have a certain skill set, and I know people like James, there's people here who also do what we do. But as time goes by, we're starting to see more and more of what really is going on with people. So the veil is lifting, but even our own little personal fears and what do you call them? Idiosyncrasies or whatever you call them, that those little things that we do that we don't understand why, it's going to start becoming more obvious to people without judging. Without judging, right? We're going to start seeing this. And this is where, when we go in the future with telepathy, that we're going to be able just to look at somebody and feel the goodness in them. That's why we got to clean out all the pain and suffering right now. All it is something that happened to you. Yeah. And it hurts sometimes, but it's just something, when you're through it, you're like, that wasn't such a big deal. Yeah. But it was a big deal when you were going through it or when you were processing it.
Absolutely.
Right? But when you're through, it's no big deal.
And I actually want to say, it's not just the person that you're working with. That I mean, I don't come in with judgment to anybody, because we all been through crap, and most of it's not yours. I actually worked with a client once that, it was looking at the list of emotions, in the emotion code, and it's like, oh, I don't want this one, and I don't want this one, and it's like, I was like, wait, I said,
you don't get to cherry pick.
You don't get to cherry pick, and this is like, what are you afraid of? I just said, what are you afraid of if those things do come up? I said, I can guarantee you will have most of these, because everybody does. These are really common. Some of them
are, judgment is in there.
There's no judgment in it. Why are you judging yourself?
Well, for him judging himself, right? That's what I mean, him judging.
Why are you judging yourself before we even start the process? You're actually stopping what I'm able to do, because you won't let that come up.
Right.
It was a really interesting paradigm. I was like,
well, this is the ego. This is the ego trying to protect him. No, nothing wrong with it. It's just what it is. And that's why you work with somebody who can spot these things, right?
No, and
that's funny.
What they did realize, and it's like, just let it go. I said, 90% isn't even yours. 90% isn't even yours. Don't put so much value in this stuff. There is no value in it. That's why we're getting.
No, you're just clearing it.
We're getting rid of it. It has no value.
It's just a block for you.
This is when and I think this is a thing that people hold on to. Their dysfunction. And people think that, oh, I'm so horrible, I don't want all my junk to come up. It's not your junk.
A lot of it's not. It's just how somebody made you feel.
Exactly. It's actually a tool to make you afraid to actually clean up.
Totally.
That's it. And when we do, I mean, look at, I've done the work too, and it's not always pretty, but I don't care. I'd rather it out of me than in me. So let's go.
Do you know, I try to put this in context sometimes, and I say, if I knew back in 2012 what I was going to go through to get here, would I do it again? I honestly would rethink it. I would stay stupid, but I wouldn't change it for the world now that I'm here.
No.
So does that make sense? Like I had things were pretty good, and I bought into all the 3D normie shit, and I donated to World Vision and Red Cross and all that garbage, right? And I had no idea what was going on in the real world. I bought all the brochures in Canada, how great we were. But when I started looking at it, and then I started digging deeper and deeper, and then you realize how nefarious the real agenda is, that they need victims. They need to hurt people.
Yeah.
For this system to work. And then next thing you know, it develops into a year, and then a year and a half, and then 2 years, and then 4 years later, and then away you go, right? But I wouldn't change it for the world, because this is the real us. Yeah. This is what we're meant to do, that we're meant to be here, to be our best selves, be here for each other, right? Help each other evolve and grow until people can do this on their own. And we are going to be the change. There's no doubt about it.
But I'm going to be honest, if you knew what you were going to go through on the physical level, you probably wouldn't have. But if the universe showed you how you would feel on the other side, about the health and everything else, you probably still would have gone through it. If they showed,
I would have gone through it no matter what, but I'm just saying, in hindsight,
but the feeling
came at a cost. The feeling now is there's no way I would not go through it.
Exactly. The way I feel.
I love how you just said that, because that's the emotional charge that we need, that we feel so good about who we are, where we are, what we're doing, what we know. it's sometimes it feels really good to know that we know without being arrogant and saying that we know more than other people. That's not the point. It's not what we're saying, but it just feels good to know the truth.
Absolutely. And I'm open to being wrong.
Yeah, so am I. Yeah, I agree.
I'm open to being wrong. I don't have to be right about everything. I don't think my truth is the only truth. I'm just trying to get to it, and I'm, that's it. And I'm sharing what I'm learning as I go along to people who hopefully want
and helping them build their confidence, helping them trust their own inner guidance, helping them use their own discernment. Because like I said, there's going to be so much deception that comes out in the next little while. Trust yourself. And if you don't, and you're not sure, ask for another sign. Say, show me another sign that this is really what's going on. I'm not buying into this just yet, or whatever. And I think it's going to be the people who kind of not stand back, but kind of just observe with discernment, not attached to an outcome, that we're going to fare maybe a little better. As I say this, now I'm going to get tested because I just said that, but we're going to fare a little better than jumping in and the first person who says something that we buy hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is all about growth.
I want to tie this back to what we started with. And as we do this and we're able to, because as these lies come in and all this deception starts to come in, if we can actually as an observer, like we talked about, and that is actually being the observer is a higher frequency. So that's that 5D is we're looking sometimes I feel like I'm looking down, even though I'm like at the same level. You're almost like part of
you are looking down. You're looking down on the situation. You're observing it
and realizing it's not affecting me the way it would have, even a year ago or 2 years ago. 6 months
cleared stuff out. Yeah, because you cleared stuff out.
And, the triggers with all of, this, I think I'm sorry, but I'm going to say all the stupid people. I think they're really non-player characters. Is that the NPCs? Yeah. NPCs really pissed me off, but it's like, okay, you know what? They have a job to do. Go for it. God love you.
You mean the MPPs when they didn't vote?
No. Non-player characters. So they're in the script, but they're the background.
That would still be the politicians that didn't vote. Kind of same thing. They're in the realm, but they're out, right?
The non-player characters. And actually, Linda mentioned there's there's a ton of them out here. And
the danger's in the middle ground. They have it too good in the physical reality that they don't care. They're going to wait it out and see. They don't care as long as their businesses are doing well. They don't care what other people's businesses are doing. And things like that, right? So this is the dangers in the middle ground. This is where we're going to see the split. I'm going to say something, and I know it's going to sound judgmental, and I can't help it, but somebody on Twitter, they're making comments about these 215 children that were in graves in the Kamloops school. One of them said, well, who's to say it wasn't a Spanish flu, that they were all in a mass grave? They weren't in mass graves. They were in different graves because they didn't all die at the same time. And I thought, and I started getting my keyboard clicking, and I thought, no, I'm not going to say anything at this point. What a callous thing to say. Wouldn't the right thing be to say, let's find out just what is behind these schools? We've heard about these stories so many times. Oh, we don't want to do the right thing by the First Nations because they get so much money, and nobody ever knows how much money they really get. And they got it so good so that, and I'm going to say this is usually predominantly well-off white people that are saying this because they don't want their world to change. We are the middle class. We are predominantly white in Canada still. I think it's 60%, but we have an opportunity to want abuse to stop for anybody, regardless where this abuse is happening, regardless what schools it's happening in, if it's residential schools, any schools. But we're going to get disgusted before we get through this, because what we're going to find is people are going to say some really heartless things. And this is where you're going to see the divide and really be turned off.
I'm actually going to say something about your comment on judgment. Judgment isn't necessarily a bad thing. What is discernment?
Totally. It's a different form of judgment.
Yeah, it's judgment. It is a judgment. You're actually internally judging what the right path is.
Based on your morals and values and what you prioritize in life and your integrity, right? So it's okay to judge. There's nothing wrong with that, providing that you're coming from a position of judging the behavior, but not the person. So that's why I'm describing the behavior, not the person.
Yes, and it's the same. It actually is a similar paradigm to what we talked about before about forgiveness, right? Forgiveness gets this like, oh, you have to be forgiving, love, and light, blah blah blah. Bullshit. You don't have to forgive everybody.
No.
Not your problem.
And we're not going to forgive everybody when we find out what's really going on.
See,
I don't believe we are.
That is actually, I think it's a program. Judgment, no, don't judge others, is a program.
It's like tolerance, yes.
To make sure that they can get off scot-free, because we can't judge them for their bad actions. So you can judge their actions. Absolutely, 100%. This is all about, like,
I look at the behavior, not the person. I don't care who it applies to. If this is wrong for this person to do it, then it's wrong for that person to do it. And there was Russ Flex. She's a young woman who has her own YouTube channel, and she really does a lot of investigative journalism. She went out and pointed out that there was a teacher who had been, they had like 15 complaints about him sexually abusing children, and why didn't anybody do anything about it? And they said, oh, but he was abused as a boy. And I'm like, really? So hang on, this is the excuse. So they say 40% of children who were sexually abused reoffend, but they say 75% of them are females. Then that means 75% of the 40% are females who are abusing, or that statistic is absolute bullshit. And another thing, so, oh, hurt people. And it's like, no, own your shit. If you can't come out and say publicly that it's okay to do that to a child, and anybody who's told me they were abused, the person was always very secretive about it. They didn't go and put the child on the kitchen table and abuse him in front of everybody. It was always behind closed doors. So they know it's wrong. So let's just call bullshit what it is and start questioning everything. But she was talking about this one in Chicago, and it turns out that they went to school with Hillary Clinton, and she's tying so many things in to the abuse, but we're not buying it anymore. We're not buying what the experts say. Like forgive and forget, or you got to forgive to move on, and all these kind of things, right? So, absolutely. And I'm not saying don't release it, but you decide for yourself if you forgive somebody or not.
Yeah, and that's why I just wanted to bring up the whole judgment thing. Discernment is
perfect.
It is a type of judgment, and so it actually was. It's just a way of keeping you from actually pointing the finger at them. And
so, do you remember Kathleen Wynne was went through this whole tolerance thing? Oh, we got to be tolerant for all the LBGT and all this stuff. So basically, she shames you into acquiescing and going along with something that you may or may not agree with, because you have to be tolerant. Because if you're not tolerant, then you're not worthy. And it's like,
you don't want acceptance. You don't give a shit if you accept, as long as you put up with their garbage.
That's what it's all about. That's
what is putting up with their garbage. It's not that you actually accept it.
No.
And
they shame you into following suit, right? So that's what's interesting about it.
We're nice as Canadians, but I'm just going to say, shake all that off. Shake all that off. Start looking and ask for these things, like to be the mirrors so you know what to get rid of, so that you can, as the shitstorm starts, because the shitstorm's coming, we can actually look at it from observers, and we don't have to internalize it, put emotion to it, and actually have it affect us.
Have it land on us, totally.
Basically, yeah, you're almost creating a barrier for yourself.
What I like what you're saying about that, going back to the observer, what I like about what you're saying, if you can be in the observer position and everything is falling apart around you, and say, what is the best outcome for everybody involved? Well, how can we get closer to our goal of creating the new earth the way we want it to look like? So as you're the observer, you can still go in, and as the observer, you collapse the quantum wave function, but put a positive spin on it. How can what's the good that can come out of this?
Yeah.
Whether it's truth, whether it's a higher set of standards going forward, it doesn't matter. So we're all at different levels. There's no judgment here. And even no matter how far you get, you might be broadsided by something that sets you back emotionally, and you still go back and clear it. Then you move forward again. So it's really important just to have a laser focus on this as we're watching what's going on. Understand who's trying to take you out of your comfort zone, or out of your truth. I'm going to call it truth zone better than comfort zone. How can this get better? How can this turn into something good for everybody?
Yeah.
And start creating the new reality, right? Like bring in the new earth timeline that you want for your life, and dream big.
And the wonderful thing is, it's a wonderful place to start, because you can look at what's the opposite of this shitstorm. And so even if you don't know exactly, what would the opposite
figure out what you don't want
going on would look like. So if A doesn't look good to you, what's the opposite of what's B? So let's create this.
Reverse engineer it. Oh my gosh, that's another good point.
They've inverted everything. What if we re-invert everything and actually create the beauty that's supposed to
with love, right?
Yes.
Totally reverse engineer it.
Okay, before we go, one more thing. Oh, this blew my mind. Okay, because nothing ever blows my mind, right? My mind is blown all the time.
Right now it is, because there's so much happening.
So, you know how we talk about love and light, blah, 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 all the bullshit of the New Age movement? Well, isn't that screwed up? Because you know what it should be? It's love light.
Yes.
You're supposed to love light, not love and light.
They separated that too.
We separate everything instead of love light, because that's that Christed light that comes through us.
Yeah. So, and when we start to see all this, we're getting this, and we're all uniting and unifying as we're even talking about this, because we all realize we all hold the same light. We all hold the same connection. It's how intense we want to be with it, and how devoted to the Christed light we want to be. And not like, obviously not religion, but how devoted we want to be to that truth and knowing and expanding ourselves, right? So we're in for some interesting times. There's no doubt about that.
And thanks, Patty, she said it's an amazing conversation, and thanks us for our wisdom.
Yes, thanks for everybody's comments too.
Yes, you guys have a wealth of wisdom too. You know,
there's so many people in this group, and I haven't said it yet, and there's no pressure, but you're going to be the future, the leaders in whatever capacity too. And it doesn't matter if you come out, you write a book, like I said, with a pen name. It doesn't matter what you're going to do, but you're on the cutting edge of all this. And who knows if we end up just starting a group where we go in and we practice raising our consciousness at one time and sending it out there. Who knows what's going to come out of this? And nothing is static. Just because this is where we are today doesn't mean it's going to be where we are a month from now, or 2 months from now, a year from now. Things are definitely evolving, right? So have faith in ourselves, trust ourselves, know we've got this,
right?
And hang on to your butts, because we're going for a ride, and it's going to be interesting, right?
Yep, absolutely. And I think
so Mark, we're talking about agendas here. I know, and you want us to watch a flat Earth film. Why is that? We're not talking about flat Earth, and it's okay. So here's a good thing that we can all use for discernment. What is that going to help us out with right now, with where we're at?
It's pointless.
Yeah, right. So just so use your discernment, and what gets your distraction? What takes your attention away? So it took my attention away because it's been mentioned a couple times. How is that relevant?
Times, and with Patty and I, it's like you know, flat Earth. Who the fuck cares? I'm sorry, yeah. Mark. I don't fucking care if it's flat, round, square, oval. I don't give a shit, because it doesn't matter.
If it's a crater, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. What I do know is this is where I live. What shape it is isn't going to change.
No, and we want it to be the best it's going to be.
Or anybody else. Yes, I hear it's one more lie. Well, guess what? It's one of millions. I don't.
Who has to prove God? Who needs proof of God? If you need to convince others that God exists in whatever that context is, you're still with the normies, right? Like,
I already know that there is one.
We know what it is. Yeah.
I don't need to know if the Earth is flat or not to know that there is one. That's all.
We love light leaders. That's a nice one, Lori. Thank you.
Yes, it's a distraction from the truth of getting yourself where you need to be.
Totally.
Evolve. And this Earth, regardless of flat, round, square, I don't give a shit what it is.
So look at the comments. Stay closed-minded. This is the shame bullshit we're talking about of people. So he's going to get a block as far as I'm concerned, right? Nobody gives a fuck what you think, Mark. This is you shaming people. And this is what we're talking about, is standing in our power and not buying into other people's screwed up control games, right? So this is what it's about. But let's all stay in a good spot. So this is good that it's happening, that we can see this and say goodbye.
The kicker is the funny thing of that comment is if you're only going down one road and everything is about a flat Earth, well, who's got the closed mind? I'm actually looking at it. I don't care what it is. It can be anything. When all the truth comes out, then I will know maybe if it's important. But the important things right now are much bigger than what the Earth is.
Totally. And we don't know, because so much information and so many more deceptions are going to come out. So we don't know what it's going to be. How many deceptive roads are we going to go down, right?
Yeah.
So this is fantastic. I like the love light leaders from Lori. That's very nice.
Thank you guys. What? And I do love this group. You guys are amazing. I know we have a small channel. And I always forget to say like, share, and subscribe.
Totally.
I mentioned that to them, like, you know what? I'd never say.
But it is, because we do want to get this message out, because there's going to be more people that stand up and they're going to have faith in themselves and they're going to trust themselves. And we need you guys. We need all of us. It doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter what our backgrounds are. Clear out our stuff so we can stay in line and bring in the changes that are coming, whatever that is that we want, right?
It's because we are a collective. We are not all one. We are not, like, the whole universe is not all one, right? Because people come from different places and whatever, like I've said many times. But here, I feel like this group, with us. We are a collective. We are
Totally.
like mind, here to share and learn together.
Totally. And like I said, people talk behind the scenes and that we all share things. So it's all good. Right?
Yeah.
So let's have a fantastic week again. And I think June's going to be a month that is going to be a lot of information is going to come out. Trust yourself. Yes. Trust if you need to stay home. Trust if you need to go out. Trust whatever it is that you're going to make the right decision for yourself. That's what's really going to happen. Yes.
So we are becoming family.
Family. We are family.
I look forward to now it's Wednesdays and Fridays. I love it.
Yes.
I feel like, I get to commune with you guys. That's why I like the lives.
Yes.
And
I agree.
It's this week though, Sandy, is the 10th falls next week sometime. I don't know what day.
So that's the solar eclipse, right? I think that's Thursday.
Thursday. It is another portal. It is.
So this is what's coming up, right? Be careful to avoid brainwashing, conspiracy theories. So conspiracy theories, if you find out that some of the truth is coming out and you're thinking, oh, thank goodness it's coming out, we still have to understand that they could be lying to us, whether it's UFO truths or whatever it is, right? So we have to still watch and not jump on. There's going to be extreme spiritual beliefs. So some people could think that's what we're talking about, or religious ideology. So we might have people coming out saying, if you're not a certain religious group, we're going to kill you, whatever, right? So there's going to be some time, and it's really important that we don't replace the old matrix with assimilation that is actually the new matrix with just different players, which is the old matrix with different players.
Which they're trying to do and put it in a new box, right?
Totally.
To suck us in. And that's where our discernment, our judgment comes in. So we've got to be vigilant.
Yes, and we're going to be. And if we have any questions or anybody's not sure, you can reach us on different social media platforms and we can talk about it and just say, hey, you know what do you think of this? And it doesn't mean we're right or wrong. We don't care if we're right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Lori. And we're trying to help everybody step in their power because we've all come from the same heart. And that's what they don't want us to acknowledge, right?
And it's not like Sandy and I were born this way. It took hard work. And
you know what? I was born this way, but I had a lot of roadblocks put in front of me. And I never realized that I had this one when I was a child. And I remember I remember a voice saying to me, Sandy, knew it wasn't going to be easy.
Yeah.
And it took me until a few years ago to realize that was my higher self talking to me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the support. It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's all irrelevant now. Once you get through it, it's irrelevant.
I know. But I didn't mean it literally. Yeah, we absolutely are born this way. Actually, born even better than this. But we're still on the road to that. But
coming back to that, yeah.
What we were taught and programmed to, what we were told we were, that's actually better. What we were told we were is not who we actually are. And realizing that in that journey of finding out who you are, it's not always easy. It's not always pretty.
Work with somebody you trust if you're going to go through some serious hard emotions to process, somebody who will be with you, observe you, and know what you can handle and what you can't based on your physiological responses, right? That's the big thing. It's just use each other to get through the bumps. There's times I ask Betty, I'm like, Betty, what's going on with me? Do you know what I mean? Like you can't always do your own work. Sometimes you get somebody else to do it. Right?
Sometimes I'm always afraid I might be biased on myself. So it's like, just check this because I'm getting this, Sandy, but is this me or am I right?
And that's how we get good at it too. Yeah. That's how we get good at it. That we start questioning ourselves, helping each other figure this stuff out. Then you can go in and read anybody's energy, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just so you know, Amber, Sandy's website is always in the links below. If it's not in this one just yet, it's in one of our previous ones. It's always under there.
Okay. Yeah, we can have a chat, Amber, because it's not going to take much to clean you out. It's not like we're going to use a pipe cleaner, but it's not going to take much if you really want to do it. It's going to be amazing. You're going to feel amazing when it's done, right? So, okay. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see what next Friday brings. We don't always know what we're going to talk about because things are changing pretty fast. But.
And actually, if you guys in the comments, maybe not in the chat, but in the comments on YouTube, if you have things you actually want us to talk about, put it in. We can actually go through it. We both are always looking at the comments.
And I'm going to send the Vertigo clearing through to you, Betty. I'll send it to you by email, and you can add it if you want to put it in your email too, and I'll put the legend in there so you know where to tap. And then that way, it just gets you through the tough stuff that keeps coming up. Like, you know, if something comes up and it's just a little naggly thing, get rid of it. You don't need it.
Yeah. All right. So I'll figure out how if I can put it into the YouTube description. If not, we'll figure out where we can post it
put it. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we'll figure that out.
We'll figure it out. It'll be there for y'all in the next couple days. If not,
there you go.
Right away. All right.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. God bless. Love you all.